Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome into Morning in the Valley. I'm Jeff Bidwell. I had to check what day of the week it was. It's been it's been a bit of a blur here for the last week or so. Having been in Omaha with Murray State's baseball team, doing the radio there as the Racers making their first ever trip to the College World Series. Just a great deal. That's one of those events. After having been there, if you have never been, go. And it's like, look, it goes for a week and a half, I think, from beginning to end. But to be able to get there and just experience it for even a couple of days, it is a, it is an A+ event for look media. They take care of us great. I think it's a great experience for the fans as well. And it's it is run like it is the Final Four or a college football playoff national championship where everything is just first class, top notch. But it's small. I mean, there's only that the stadium holds there. The Charles Schwab Field, Omaha, only holds 25,000 people. So it's a dialed back, a little more homey feel, but just an awesome experience to be a part of it. However you go, whether you got a team going, if you just want to go and hang out in the outfield and watch things, you're gonna enjoy it most certainly. So, very happy to be able to check off one more thing on my professional bucket list and being able to go call a game there at the College World Series. All right, today we got a lot of scheduling news we're going to get into here in just a moment. We're also going to at about 7 minutes from now, we're going to talk with Michael Admire. He is the radio voice of the Drake men's basketball program, the host of the Hometown Hoops podcast as well. We're going to talk to him as we're about 11 weeks in here to the Eric Henderson experience in Des Moines. And obviously summer workouts are underway, and Michael is part of his job there at Drake, doing a lot of summer interviews and sort of the get to know you interviews with folks from the Drake program. So we're going to pick his brain a little bit how things are going at Drake, and if we should expect yet another trip to the NCAA tournament for the Bulldogs this year. If you have not done so already, love you to do it. Head on over to YouTube, search out Morning in the Valley. We've got all the old episodes. You ever miss one, you can go there. We've got clips from all of our interview subjects as well. So you can get a sort of condensed version of said episode and show. So hope you can do that for us. Subscribe, like, share, comment, all that good stuff will help this program continue to grow. All right. I just want to take a minute, and I felt like I got a little rushed last I guess it was Monday when we had Chase Walker coming in from Illinois State and was trying to get to him, and I felt like I didn't necessarily maybe land the plane on my point as well as I would have hoped about the house settlement and how this is going to affect teams at the mid-major level. So obviously, we're talking about teams that have opted in to the house settlement that are going to be given the opportunity to share revenue with their players. So obviously, in its simplest form now, you basically have a salary cap of $20.5 million or so for each athletic program that has opted into the house settlement. Obviously, the Missouri Valley schools are not going to be sharing that much revenue, but whatever they choose to share, I just believe that the most important part of this house settlement is that programs now are going to have the opportunity to sign players to multi-year contracts ultimately. But those contracts, the most important part of it is they will have buyouts attached to them. And so, as I said, if a Missouri Valley school has a player that at the end of a year, they're great, look, Cooper Schwieger going to Wake Forest. But if he has signed a multi-year deal and there's another year on that contract, he can still leave. But whatever, if Valpo had opted in, and I don't believe they will for this example, let's just play along that if let's just say that the buyout was $500,000, well, not only does North Carolina have to pay that $500,000, that $500,000 works against their salary cap. So all these big schools have to leave some extra buffer at the top to be able to go get guys. In theory, that's how it's going to work. But the most important part is that $500,000 then goes to Valpo in this scenario. And I think that is something that is going to, I think there's going to be some early growing pains in this process. But, if you have a million or 1.5 million or 2 million as a Missouri Valley school, and you've got one of your studs who goes, and if you attach the right buyout price tag to him, and how that's going to work on the front end with the player as well, how much of that's a negotiation piece, and what that number is going to be. But if you add, a 500,000 or maybe more to that player, those schools are going to take a significant leap in what they then have to offer to the next year moving forward. So they may, teams in the Valley may come to the table with 1.5 million, maybe two, but then suddenly the next year, hey, we've got three to be able to go out and get some guys. And maybe also, I still believe in the end, as the Valley moves forward, it's not as much about getting guys. There is still going to be an art to recruiting and developing kids and bringing them in as freshmen and being able to keep them. And that's where I think all this rev share money, the key is going to be retention and being able to hang on to these guys and not just automatically, hey, somebody had a good year and they're gone and they're flying the coop. But for the first time, the mid majors can benefit from losing someone if there's a buyout attached to it, and the big schools have to go ahead and pay. So I felt like I got rushed through that explanation a little bit on Monday, and hopefully landed the plane a little bit better here this morning. That the House settlement can be beneficial in some regards for our Missouri Valley teams. All right. The man of the hour is here. He is the radio voice of the Drake men's basketball program, the host of the Hometown Hoops podcast, Michael Admire. Good morning to you, sir. How we doing?
What's up, man? I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. You guys have had quite the run here.
It's been a couple weeks for the Racer Athletic Program, most certainly. From falling
It's
out
so
of the
cool.
sky of no one in their wildest dreams would have imagined this, and that's kind of the neat part. It's like, I think from a basketball standpoint, as for the success Drake has had and the success Murray State has had over the years, you can dream of, boy, if some things fall right, we could end up in a Final Four. We, think Loyola's been to a Final Four, Wichita's been to, like, there's no precedent for the baseball program doing something like this. So that made it, I think, all the more special.
It was great. It was fun to watch. And at Drake, we don't have baseball. So, I mean, it was a really easy, like, get behind the Valley team. And I watched game 3. I watched a couple of games throughout, but my wife and I were locked into game 3 against Duke. And then I watched both of the the games in Omaha.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was awesome.
I said, I'm probably on, and you can probably appreciate this a little bit, that I know that I don't speak for everyone in the Murray fan base, but I was like, being able to call a game that, look, you gave up 3 runs to the number 3 team in the country. Like, that should be pretty good. But to call a game where something happened for the first time in 65 years, it was like, yeah, that was pretty cool in the end, even though that, the Racers folks certainly would have loved to maybe not been on the receiving end of that historical no-hitter, but it was still pretty cool.
Sometimes when you make a run, you put yourself in position.
That's right.
That you put yourself in position to be a part of history, and it doesn't always go your way. But man, yeah, that's awesome. I just want to give kudos to all the Racers and fan base and that baseball team. That was we were enjoying it here in Des Moines.
Well, good. Well, we were talking about the House settlement, and we're doing our quick. My quick Google Wikipedia research this morning. I've not seen anything official out of Drake Athletics. Do you have anything? If I missed something, is the intention? There's still 2 weeks. I guess they extended the deadline to opt in if they want. Is there a plan in place right now for what Drake's going to do?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the plan, is to opt in. I mean, I'm not like fully on the inside of conversations, but that seems to be the way that everything's trending. There were some things that happened. I think originally, Brian Harden and Marty Martin, our president at Drake, they were kind of going back and forth on whether to opt in or opt out. And we're in a unique position because we have non-scholarship football, Pioneer Football League. And, that's 115, 120 players on the roster. That is, for a school of Drake's size, that is a significant number, and to have to cut that down to 105. I mean, it's just not it's not fair to a brand new coach, but not really fair to the players. And then the partnership we have with the institution, it just didn't seem feasible. Now where you can maybe, you know,
Grandfather
we
them in a
grandfather some
little bit.
players in. Yeah, that makes it to where I think the plan is to opt in. But I mean, things have changed so quickly. Last
Yeah,
I heard, that was the plan.
right.
So
Well, they've
I
still
guess we'll
got
see officially.
12 days or so to make it official.
Yep.
We are about 11 weeks or so into the Eric Henderson era there in Des Moines. How have things gone so far from your seat?
Yeah, I mean, it's been really enjoyable. I mean, there's a jolt of energy, and obviously, the end of last season, there was a lot of buzz. It was a ton of fun. I mean, one of my favorite moments. I mean, you just had this kind of moment, calling the College World Series. One of my favorite moments was in Wichita. Turning around as the final seconds are winding down. Beating Mizzou, about to advance to the round of 32s, looking back and seeing everybody crying. I mean, kids
Right,
crying,
right,
grown men crying. It was special. And then you have kind of like that 7 days where we don't know what the heck's going to happen. And so to bring in a guy like Coach Eric Henderson, Hendo, as he goes by, it has been awesome. They hit the ground running. They've been working really hard to build a roster, have 13 guys on the roster. They've been on campus now. This is their third week of workouts. So, it's nonstop. I know it's the same there in Murray and across the Missouri Valley Conference. But yeah, I mean, I like what I see so far. I mean, they've got a good balance of, veteran players. They've got a balance of some young guys. We're talking about how important it will be for, teams in the Missouri Valley Conference to develop. I mean, this is what kind of Hendo and his staff has been known for, kind of finding those hidden gems like a Baylor Shireman, Zeke Mayo, and building them up, developing them, and then both those guys transferred later on. But I mean, if you get 3 years of Zeke Mayo and
yeah.
Baylor Shireman, you feel pretty good about it. So I mean, all that to say, I think things are going pretty good. We got a long way until November. There's still a lot of work to be done, but feeling good.
Get 3 years out of anybody these days. You're doing backflips
At any school. I mean,
100%, 100%. When you see, and not to pop quiz you on the roster, but you said 13. You got 11 new players, 2 old faces. 13. That's always been kind of the number. If you opt into the settlement, you can go to 15 with 15 scholarship players. And I guess you may have answered this already without it being all set in stone. But do you think there will be plans to go take our fun drive down Speculation Avenue here, that if you guys do opt in, that there may be some more additions down the line, or do you think we're set with 13 with what we're going to see?
That's a great question. I haven't even asked that, so I really don't even. I can't speculate. I haven't heard anything about that. It feels like they have turned their attention towards 2026 when it comes to recruitment. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe anything's possible.
Okay. Anything is possible. You have had a chance to catch up with some folks on the Old Hometown Hoops podcast. Coach Klink, Rob Klinkafus, just your general impression, just from obviously Coach Endo's sort of a force of nature in the best possible way with his enthusiasm and all, but getting a chance to spend some more time with these players and this staff, what has sort of jumped out to you so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think they strike a really good balance of having fun, getting to know each other, being loose. But, when practice starts, when the whistle blows, they're getting after it. They're working hard and they're trying to get better. So that's fun to see. Another thing that Coach Klink, and then I had Coach Barnes on this week. That podcast will come out on Friday morning. But listening to both of them, it's been very important for them to, for the coaches to establish a culture of connectivity within the roster, because and for them to really build that relationship early on, especially within the players, because I think one transfer from South Dakota State, so as opposed to last year where you had 10 new guys, but 4 were from Northwest Missouri State. There were some relationships built in there that these guys had known each other forever. So it was really, pick up where they left off kind of thing.
Yeah.
Toward this year, one transfer from South Dakota State, a couple incoming freshmen that were originally committed to SDSU that came to Drake. But outside of that, I mean, it's, transfers from, all over the country. So building that camaraderie has been really important. And I think they're going paintballing at some point here this summer. And Hendo, from talking to the coaches, one of his superpowers is to be able to connect people.
Yeah.
And that's been evident in the first couple of weeks of practice. These guys look like they've been playing together and hanging out for months, years, and it's only been a couple of weeks.
Nothing better than the summer team building. Takes you down all sorts of paths, doing things you never would have imagined. Last year, I think obviously caught everybody by surprise. And I think you sort of, when you look back, you're like, well, maybe it shouldn't have, to your point about, guys coming in and familiarity with the coaching staff, and they kind of just kept rolling from what they had going at Northwest Missouri. But does this year, maybe in the summer, did last year sort of change the summer ceiling for maybe a fan base of, yeah, we can probably, we've seen this, we can maybe run this back, rather than thinking there's going to be a building process you're going to have to sit through?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that is too.
I don't think anybody can go, hey, we're going to win 31 games. I mean, I think that's crazy, but to think that, we're not going to go 16-16.
Yeah, no, I mean, to make a run like they did last year is unprecedented. It hadn't happened at Drake in 5 decades. So yeah, I mean, 31 wins had never happened here before. So, a lot of it was historic. So to have those expectations on this team are unfair. But at the same time, I think with how Brian has hired coaches, Brian Harden has hired coaches, and the support of the fan base, and the track record of Coach Henderson at South Dakota State, you feel like this team should be able to compete for a championship. And I think that is the expectation. And that's what I said last year. I didn't foresee the 30+ wins and a win in the NCAA tournament and, beating all these Power 5 programs. But you could see that this team was going to be able to compete for a championship. And I think that's the exact same thing. When you walk into the gym, it doesn't take long to see what they got. The coaches, they've got a really good feeling right away of what they have when they're out on the floor. And that's what I've seen from this team and from talking to the coaches. They feel like they've got the pieces to be able to compete for a championship. And that's exciting. And, seeing a picture of Coach Henderson there on the screen, he has, he's filling the shoes. He's coming in behind Darren DeVries and Ben McCollum. Well, this is something he has kind of done before at South Dakota State. Scott Nagy took South Dakota State from D2 up to Division I and had success. Passes the baton over to TJ Otzelberger. He did all right. And then it goes over to Hendo. So Hendo is comfortable with the expectations. He's comfortable following in the footsteps of really good coaches. And so I think all of those things mixed together, yeah, I'm excited. But like I said last year, when their backs are against the wall, when you're on the road at Murray State, down 5, how are you going to react in those situations? And those are the things that you just truthfully don't know until that moment happens.
In the, I guess in your summer interview series over there at the Hometown Hoops podcast, you got a chance to talk with Greg McDermott and the Creighton head coach, and it's his ties to the Valley. Certainly run deep, trademark Missouri Valley Conference. His former now associate head coach Ryan Miller, the head coach at Murray State, and his former player in Eric Henderson is now the head coach at Drake. What did you learn about Coach Hendo that maybe you did not know before in talking with Coach McDermott?
That's a good question. I mean, he did kind of hammer in on all the things that I kind of felt we had heard about. One thing that he really applauded Hendo for was, when he was a player, how he was the first to celebrate teammates, and he was the first to, cheer them on and hope the best for them, and, push them a little bit. But then he was also the first to hold them accountable, because prior to the season, you have this kind of set of rules that everybody's got to abide by if they want to win a championship. And some of them are spoken, some of them are unspoken, but Hendo would live by those. And so if somebody else isn't abiding by it, he would call them out. And he had the ability to do that because of the way that he went about his business. And I've seen that as a coach here too. They have kind of set out the ground rules, like, hey, who are we going to be? What's this team going to be all about? All right, I'm going to be all about that as well. I'm going to cheer you on. We're going to cheer each other on, but we're also going to, we've established this. We got to go back to that. So that was fun to listen to. It's been about a month and a half since we've had that conversation. So I'm trying to like go back in my mind and remember some of that stuff. But yeah, that was a ton of fun.
We talked the last time about at-large possibilities, and I have it's been one of my late spring here, getting ready on summer pet projects of trying to crack the code a little bit, and it of making this a multi-bid league again, and it has felt, the numbers. It's non-conference strength schedule has kind of probably held this league back. When you look back in the last 10 years or so, you guys were 252 last year. Indiana State, I think, was 305 the year before. And obviously, when you're coming to the table and you're trying to make your case, that's hard. Thankfully, you guys didn't have to worry about that as you wanted in Arch Madness. Is there a scheduling philosophy maybe you've gotten from Coach Henderson, and I know Coach Klinkfuss is the one who's sort of in charge of the scheduling as much, but do they have like, man, we're going to go play anybody, we're going to just rack up some wins in November? What's the general, do they have a general overall thought that they've shared, or you've at least been able to dissect a little bit?
Yeah, and Brian Harden also does a lot with our scheduling. So yeah, he's like an Brian is an SID, a former SID. So he is big into the numbers. He loves the scheduling, loves crunching the numbers. And I know you say like the 252 strength of schedule going into the year. Yeah, you don't expect Miami to drop the ball. So you're trying to schedule as strong as you can. They did leave one game maybe out there last year where they could have picked up another game. So yes, they could have potentially tried to schedule a little bit harder, but this is a new team. And so November, you want to give yourself a little bit of breathing room. And so I think that's probably going to be a similar approach this year, a little bit of breathing room early on in November. And then kind of pick up the pace as we get going into December. From what I'm hearing, they've already got the tournament down in Destin, which will be, LSU right off the bat. And then there you go. There's the graphic. Look at you, Jeff. This is awesome. You got
a Boy Scout once. I'm prepared. So
yeah, you are. DePaul and Georgia Tech in there. So, I mean, that's a pretty good field. You get an SEC school right off the bat. And then I think we play a couple of conference games in mid-December.
Right.
So that'll have a little bit of effect on the non-conference scheduling as well. Still keeping that 20 game schedule. And then we'll probably play a couple non-D1s. Not entirely sure how that'll play out. I believe they're looking at the SWAC again and trying to pick up a couple games there, potential bye games. But I think some of that stuff is still in the works, not set in stone. And then they want to play a neutral site game. And then they are starting a home and home. And as Klink said on the podcast, with a team from the South. But as we were texting, maybe it's more a team that's Southern instead of South. So a little bit of a teaser there, a fun home and home that I think fans will be excited about. Especially traveling to this location.
Most certainly.
And then what's the other? Oh, a neutral site game early on. I think the plan is to open up at a neutral site game, and then potentially try to find another Power 4, Power 5 in the mix. But scheduling's hard, so
Yep. Yep.
we'll see how it goes.
There's two sort of paths to it, and it's like you have the non-conference strength of schedule, which is over here, but then over here you just have your net. And I've had a chance to talk about some philosophies with Murray State's Ryan Miller, and those are two separate paths that don't always necessarily come together. But the main thing is, his philosophy is we need to play a lot of quad ones and twos. We need to play teams that are like us, and then we need to go play the bottom 50 teams in the country, and we need to blow them out. That's how you make the network. And so those may hold down your strength of schedule. But, and that was the thing that last year, I think, again, sort of the autopsy last year that we didn't have to worry about with you guys in the, are you an at-large or not, was you didn't blow a lot of people out. And so that was always just, it didn't really matter who you played. And then you have the people that are like, well, isn't winning the most important part? Well, yeah, you guys won every game. I mean, it seemed like every game, but you were not Houston, who went and beat teams by 50 every night in the non-conference. And that ultimately just fusses with the net, which is, we can argue about that.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be a hard thing for any mid-major, especially. Yeah, that's going to be a challenge for many mid-majors. That team that we brought in last year, not like a bunch of world beaters. So yeah,
Right.
in the style in which Coach McCollum played,
slow,
yeah,
yes.
but still beat good teams,
correct,
SEC schools by 10 plus points.
Right.
So, but you didn't get the 20 point or 30 point blowout wins against Green Bay at home. That would have been nice for the net, but this is what I just think is so dumb.
I know we can go around. I know.
Yeah.
But we say that now you got LSU and Destin. They were a top 100 team last year in the net. That'll be a quad 2 if it stays there. You hope they're going to improve. You got UAB at home coming in.
That's
they were 106. That's a quad 3 at home. But that, from a strength of schedule standpoint, you love getting a 100 team on your home floor. So that that is good stuff there. Well, I mean, so do you guys? Are there any summer? You don't have any summer trips coming up, right? There's no getaways.
No. Yeah, I've been giving Darren a hard time. They went to Spain a couple years ago, his final season here. So we saw a couple years before we can go on a trip. So they went to Spain, but then West Virginia, timing wise, they were able to go to Italy. And then this year is Indiana's summer trip. So they're going to either like Costa Rica or Puerto Rico. And so he's timed that out well, but no summer trips, but they'll build some stuff in. Like I was saying, going paintballing, do a Des Moines, a staycation for these guys. But no, I mean, I think the thing that's like been exciting about this roster is I love the guard play. Jalen Quinn from Loyola Chicago, Deshaun Thomas, the Charlotte transfer. He's gonna be playing in a system that fits him better. He was in kind of a Princeton offense at Charlotte. At Drake, he's going to be in this free-flowing, fast-pace, get paint touches, shoot threes kind of offense. And then they're older guys. Both those guys are 21 or older. So you have some veteran presence there. Mix that with Owen Larson, who's returning from injury. So he's not in the mix right now. But I mean, those are 3 starting guards in the Valley that you have, and you have to mix that up.
Eyes in there too.
Yeah. And then you kind of look at the length of this team all across the board with Oku Federico and Isaiah Carr. The guys really love Griffin Goodberry, freshman from South Dakota. He was a player of the year in South Dakota last year. He's got some length. He's skilled in the paint. So it got a really nice mix of players, and I think it's gonna play well.
He's Michael Admire, the Drake radio voice, and also the host of the Hometown Hoops podcast. Find it on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Any plugs you need? Who's coming up here soon on the podcast?
Yeah, we have Coach Barnes coming up tomorrow or on Friday, so that'll be fun. And then we'll just kind of keep rolling through the coaching staff, the roster, help people get to know this team, especially Drake fans, and kind of learn about these guys, buy in, get on the get to know these guys before it's too late. And so, but it's fun and it's great for me. It's like a little research, but It's a little double duty, and it's fun getting to know this crew.
Appreciate the time as always, my man. We'll talk soon.
I appreciate you, Jeff. We'll see you.
Right, thank you. There's Michael Admire, and just again, I said, the ceiling, just from a fan headspace with them a year ago, where you're like, all right, we just had this great year with the Drees and Tucker, and now it's all great. And then these new guys come in, and you're like, what can we do? And you're like, oh, well, we're going to win every game we play, basically. So now when the new team comes in, you're like, well, yeah, maybe that could happen again. And again, to the point, 31 wins may be a big ask, but overall, with Coach Hendo's pedigree, you expect Drake to certainly be right there in the mix. All right, other scheduling news to get to as we will rip some of these off this morning. Illinois State has been very busy as they announced yesterday, I believe, that they will play an exhibition series, a home and home exhibition series with Northwestern starting October the 29th up in Evanston. That game will be returned. I say that exhibition will be returned in 2026 to normal. Of course, the Collins to Collins connection there. Doug Collins, the all-time great, the GOAT at Illinois State, and then his son Chris, the head coach there at Northwestern. So neat for the fans. You're going to get a chance to get a Big Ten school to come into your building, which would never happen. I think that I guess there's two ways for me to look at this. That one, this is a game that would never happen in the regular season. I mean, and I say never. I mean, 99% of the time, it's just not going to happen. You're not getting Power 4 teams to come into your building. It's just occasionally, yes, but the general rule of thumb, not a chance in hell. And these series are at least giving an opportunity for the mid majors, and again, their fans, to be able to experience having a big boy come in. And certainly, you hope they're going to have a full house, and you can make some more money, and all of that. That's all fine and well. I think it's also ultimately going to be a reminder to the big boys when they go to these games. And granted, they're exhibitions. There's going to be different rotations than you're normally going to see in a regular season game, and there's the team that loses is going to have outs of, well, we did this and we wouldn't normally do that, and that's the reason that's all fine and well. But I think these types of games are going to be giant flashing just red lights to the power schools of, this is why we don't go play games at mid majors. And so, yes, it's great they're coming for an exhibition, but I feel like that whatever amount of times that the big boys will go play at a mid majors that we've seen in the past, as thin as that already was, it's just going to get slimmer moving forward. But hopefully we will get to see more of these here this season and the seasons moving forward now that this new rule is in place. We have Illinois State also. We've got two dates announced and reported nationally. Cornell's coming in on November the 9th. That is the back end of a home and home game, a home and home series from last year. So Cornell coming in to normal. They were a 120 net last year, was Cornell. So again, same situation. From a strength of schedule standpoint, this is a good game. From a net standpoint, it'll be a quad 3 game, again, presuming that Cornell stays in that realm. Unless they can get into the top 75 of the net, then it goes to a quad 2 game for Illinois State at home. But I'm not worried about the quads. I'm worried about, I think strength of schedule is important, especially for an Illinois State team we believe that is going to be at the top of the Missouri Valley, to be able to see that non-conference strength of schedule, be higher than 200, better than 200, just so it's not, when they are looking for a reason to knock you, to not come in there and be like, well, we've got a 300 strength schedule, that, and that's the way it's been. That is the way it has been when you're trying to swim upstream and crash the party. So I say that, and now I'm going to contradict myself, because 2 weeks later, the Redbirds are going to host Coastal Carolina on November the 23rd, which, number one, that game reported as a $75,000 buy game for the Redbirds, which is kind of a bargain these days. So good on them for getting Coastal to come in for cheap. Coastal's net last year was 328. So not helping the strength of schedule. But if you're able to beat them and beat them accordingly, by a relatively big number, It's not going to help your strength of schedule, but it's going to help your net. And those again, as we talked about with Michael a couple of minutes ago, that's what you're trying to weigh. Where if you're going to play bad teams, you've got to beat them and beat them good. And so that'll be an opportunity there for the Redbirds coming up again on November the 23rd. Illinois Chicago is playing, as we had two reports yesterday, that John Rothstein reporting that they will be playing in Daytona Beach with four teams currently down there right now. It's High Point, Incarnate Word, Southern Indiana, and UIC. Our friend Rocco Miller jumped in behind that to say that is part of the Boardwalk Battle Thanksgiving week down there in Daytona Beach. Second year in a row, UIC has played in this event. Now, last year it was an 8-team event. This year, only 4 teams from John Rothstein have been announced. And as we saw with Murray State down in the Cayman Islands, last year it was 8 teams. This year it's just 4 because that's all they could find. So we will see if this tournament does go from 4 out to 8, or if they're going to have to just turn it into a round robin type event. Look, last year, you had UIC, James Madison, LaSalle, UC San Diego, who was an NCAA tournament team, East Carolina, Jacksonville State, Toledo, and Stetson. So it's a good mid-major field. Again, this year you've got High Point, who last year was an 82 in the nets. I mean, that would be a quad 2 game for UIC if they get them. And then, Incarnate Word was at 250 and Southern Indiana was 331. So those would be 2 quad 4 games. Now, again, past results do not indicate future performances. So is High Point going to stay in the 80s? We'll see. Are those other 2 teams going to stay quad 4? Are they going to make a leap? We don't know, but that's just where they are now. And, you hope all of those teams will be better this year to be able to bolster everyone's, non-conference schedule and their quad wins and all that good stuff. But UIC for the second year in a row, heading down to Daytona Beach and the Boardwalk Battle. We told you last week about the hiring, and Indiana State has made it official. Byron Jones is headed to Terre Haute as an assistant coach for Matthew Graves. Spent the last 2 years at Texas, the last 10, 15 years, Texas, Troy, Air Force, Fresno State, nearly 3 decades of experience as an assistant coach. So really bringing some experience to that bench to help out Matthew Graves there at Indiana State. It is the Paul Oren Bowl, brought to you by thevictorybelt.com. Saw this, it's Cooper versus Carson. The Schwieger brothers, December the 14th, as Cooper, who is now at Wake Forest, Carson, who is now at Queens College. Queens will be playing at Wake Forest on December the 14th. I hope Paul has some signage down there promoting thevictorybelt.com for him. Try to get any last fumes of Valpo love off the Schwieger family. But old friends alert, as Paul likes to say. Cooper and Carson, December rather the 14th in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. One other old friend alert from Valparaiso, Lucas Scroggins, played in just 6 games last year, averaged about 3 points a game. He has signed with St. Peter's, so he has found a new college basketball home. One other thing I saw this morning from the portal report, I guess it is, that they have their list of the top 10 guards still available with eligibility that are in the portal. And of course, that's the most important phrase, with eligibility. And Ali Deba, the former Southern Illinois guard, who played, it escapes me at this moment right now, his first stop, he only played 5 games. And then the last 3 years, with the third year being at Southern Illinois. So obviously he has gotten a red shirt from that freshman season and has a year of eligibility left. And you get to June 18th and guys are still available in the portal. It's almost a little bit surprising, but especially somebody with his pedigree and as good as he was last year. But Ali Deba still out there if anybody is interested in snagging a scoring guard for one more year. All right, that does it this morning. Thanks again for checking us out here at Morning in the Valley. If you've missed any of our past shows, missed any of our interviews, we've got clips, we've got full episodes over on YouTube. Just search out Morning in the Valley, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff. We very much appreciate it. We appreciate Michael Admire, the Drake men's basketball radio voice, for being with us today. thank you for being with us today as well. And we will see you on Friday, 9 a.m. Facebook, X, YouTube, wherever, with the latest edition of Morning in the Valley. Have a great Wednesday, everybody.